Good afternoon, friends, and thank you for joining us for, I believe this is number 10. Awesome. We've hit a milestone of a series of webinars that we like to call Freshly Certified. My name is Amanda Bolte. I'm the Director of Creative and Brands at Motif Labs. I'm a serial freelancer, mentor, and designer. I'm also, very importantly, a certified RGD. I currently serve as Vice Chair of the Certification Committee, and I sit on the Board of Directors. I've also served as a certification presenter reviewer, so one of the many faces that you may see when you go through the process. If you have any questions for our presenters today, please use the chat in the control panel. We'll holding all the questions to the end of the panelists so all the panelists are able to present. I'll try and pepper some questions throughout if I can. But we will be taking some questions at the end. So if you have any questions about their work or about how they've set up their projects or about the process in general, please just put those questions in there and we will funnel those at the end. Today's webinar is discussing the certification experience, but mainly focused around case study development and presentation. Our panels of recently certified RGDs that we have today will break down their case studies, why they chose it, the process of putting them together and gathering the assets to results and how they chose to present them. But first, before I do that, let's get into those who are interested in learning a little bit more about the RGD and the overall certification process. And I'll do a general introduction, excuse me. RGD members are a community of over 4,000 like-minded professionals, including firm owners, freelancers, managers, educators, and students, with access to professional development resources and a vibrant exchange of information. Through the RGD, Canadian designers exchange ideas, educate and inspire, set professional standards, and build a strong, supportive community dedicated to advocating for the value of design. And if you need any more information, the resources are available for members or the larger design community events. Please visit the website at rgd.ca. It just got a fresh new look, so there's lots of new information on there as well. So today we're going to be talking about certification. Becoming a member an RGD member is broken up into 4 simple steps: filling out the application form to see if you are eligible, taking an online test, doing a virtual portfolio review, and the presentation of results from the RGD. If you want more information about these steps, Heidi Berry holds a RGD certification virtual information sessions monthly. She just had one yesterday. I know that they are recorded and they are available on the website, or you can join, keep an eye out for the next one where you can ask her questions live and learn more about the very detailed steps on becoming an RGD. So today we're going to be talking about my favorite part of it, and it's the most fun part, is the virtual online portfolio review. And so this is where designers get to really be designers. Portfolios are presented virtually over 30 minutes to 3 senior practitioners like myself, serving as RGD reviewers. Candidates present the same 6 pieces submitted as a part of the RGD certification application. During the review, you are to speak to all of the case studies within 30 minutes while going into depth on one of those 6 pieces. So again, if you want to learn more about the details on certification, just hit up the website. So I'm going to start off today with our very first reviewer. Her name is reviewer, excuse me. First panelist, Bianca Yushbiak. I told you I was going to do it right. It's so better when I'm off script. It's so crazy. Bianca is a multifaceted creative, dedicating 7 years to in-house design and dabbling in floristry and facilitation. I'd love to see more about that. She has committed her career to supporting nonprofits, small businesses, and startups, blending creativity with strategic thinking to help organizations thrive. Whether crafting stunning floral arrangements, leading impactful workshops, or designing compelling visual identities, Bianca brings a unique blend of artistry and expertise to every project, and will be presenting the in-house developed Plan International Canada Youth Summit 2022 branding.
Yes. Very long.
All yours. I'm so much better when I'm
title.
off script. So it's all good. Bianca, I can't wait to see.
Thank you. Oh. There we go. Okie dokie. So yes, thank you for the introduction, Amanda. Appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here today and kind of talk through this youth summit for Plan International Canada. I used to work there as an in-house designer. I started as a junior, worked my way up to intermediate, and I no longer work there anymore. But the youth summit project really was kind of like, I like to think of it as like my thesis project for working there. It was my fourth year working there at the time. And it was a massive, massive project that I did all by myself. And as most in-house designers know, sometimes you're given projects that just seem impossible and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get all this done? And somehow made it work with just two people on a design team with, 350 employees. So I'm going to go through it. And as I go through it, I'm also going to give some like insights and things that I thought about when I was writing the case study for this, because there's some things that I've learned as an in-house designer that it can make writing a case study a little bit tricky. However, it's still really doable. So I'll go through that. But without further ado, what is Plan International Canada? Usually when I tell people I've worked there, people are like, what is this? It's basically a large nonprofit. Their whole ethos and purpose of being a charity is to advance children's rights and equality for girls. So I started there in 2018. In this specific project, the Plan International Canada, I'll just say PIC from here on out because it's a really long name. PIC's Youth Summit, the 2022 version, was for the youth department. So when you work in-house, you've got all these different departments you're working for. The youth department, they do this summit every single year. And for some reason in 2022, I was like, it is only virtual, but let's just have fun with it. Like, let's just, if I could do anything I wanted to do, and like I have the time to do it and the summit goes on for 3 months, like let's just have fun with it and work with it. So that's Plan International Canada as a whole. The what? So what is the youth summit? Why are we doing it? And this is something I thought about a lot too when I was writing my case study, really setting the scene for what exactly was the purpose of this project. Because sometimes when you work in house, you do a cajillion things and your brain is like, it's email banners one day, it's an image for social another day, and every now and then you get a project like this where it encompasses all those things. And so those are the kinds of projects that I wanted to include within my case studies for my RGD application. And so the Youth Summit really is once a year. This in 2022 is taking place over the course of 4 months. Basically, anyone all over the world could attend, aged 14 to 24, and you're going to learn. You did learn and you will learn as the youth summits continue, how to contribute meaningfully to the advancement of children's rights and equality for girls. So this includes different sessions on gender equality, menstruation, all sorts of really great topics. And they pull in speakers from all over the place. I think in 2022, we had Minister Ian, who is the Minister for Children's Rights within Canada, I believe. And she was great and she came and she spoke. So they have all these speakers coming, and because it was taking over the place of 4 months, you can imagine that there was a lot of content that needed to be developed. About 150 separate deliverables, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, all for one person, not to toot my own horn, but it was a lot. So the why, normally when I start a project and when I'm writing my case study and I'm thinking through these things, I'm thinking about the transparency and collaboration. Sorry, meeting room, I'm in the office. Transparency, collaboration, I'm thinking about the flexibility of it because it's a virtual conference. What exactly do I need to do digitally and how can I make things look and feel with that? Obviously, youth council contribution is a major thing here. The youth council is a dedicated group of youth members who basically support PIC with everything youth related, which is really great because when you're having a summit that's dedicated to youth, you want youth input. You want them to have their ideas heard. You want them to be involved in the process, if not leading the whole summit themselves. And that is a key component of what the youth summit is. And so I knew when I was kind of really thinking through what I wanted to do for 2022's sub-branding, how do I get the youth involved? Because in previous years, we had never considered that. It wasn't something that I wasn't really involved in this project. And when I became involved in 2022, I spoke with the youth department and I just heard that loud and clear that like that's what they want from this overall sub branding. They want something that is youth led, or at least like, are there ways that we can infuse creative direction from the youth, right? So thinking that through. So I included that in my case study, like setting the scene for that, understanding the context of it all. A big thing for in-house designers too, everything's got to be on brand, which we love. Yes, keep it on brand. But the Youth Summit, it needed to have its own identity that still fit within the overarching brand. And so a thing for me when I was going through my case studies and picking projects, I picked this one because there was a lot that I could pull from it. But my other case studies, I know I had this thought of like, all my case studies are going to look the same, because I've only ever worked at one place. And yes, I've been here for 5 years and there's lots of work that I can show. It's all going to use the same colors. It's all going to use the same fonts. So I was like, how do I make sure that my case studies and what I'm presenting, yes, it's all for the same company, but like they're all vastly different in terms of who it's for, why we're doing it, and that kind of stuff. So really just, if when you're writing your case studies, like really think through the context and setting that scene. Especially if you are, happen to be an in-house designer and you're like, everything looks the same. I went through that too, and I still got certified. So it can be done. Yeah. And then increased youth engagement, obviously. So making sure in your case study that when you're writing it, you're talking about not only, the brainstorming and then how you got there, what it ended up looking like, but also the end goal and like, did you achieve what you needed to achieve? And this project as well included some process management and project management and stakeholder, all the good stuff. So how did I do it? Keeping true to the main goals. So basically what I did for this project was I knew that I wanted youth engagement. However, because it was virtual, and the youth council at that point wasn't going to meet until like a couple months after the youth summit, I had to do everything virtually. So I sent out a survey and we did some meeting subgroups. And we really talked with them about what they wanted to see from this like sub branding and their youth, and this is a conference for them. So how can we bring it all together with their input? Sent out a survey, got 25 responses. Those became my calls to actions, and those call to actions became basically our little stickers. And this is very on trend for like 2022, 2023. Like everyone knows this is like, okay, yeah. However, it fit the brief because they wanted something trendy. They wanted something that the youth resonated with. So the youth fed into this. They gave me the global glow up, making big moves, a new Pangea, empower the correct collective, one world, one dream. Like this all came from the youth. And so we pulled it together into these stickers that put into everything. And then the social graphics and like the speaker graphics, everything was color coded within the overarching brand. So it's still using the same colors, same fonts, but it's incorporating it in a fun, more youthful way that again is on trend. So I'm really pleased with the result, and I made sure to include that in my case study of like, look, this is everything that we did for this. It was a lot of work, but the most impactful piece, like a data point, instead of having qualitative data, like I have qualitative data and I have numbers and stuff like that, but really what makes this project successful is knowing that I incorporated the youth voice, right? And so yeah, so everything was color coded. Session 1 was that yellow, that chartreuse I should say. Session 2 was that blue. I did like sketchnoting for them using the colors. So it's just fun, like it's a youth summit, it's for youth. It was, and all the youth voices were incorporated. So yeah, so we had 95 youth come to the event. It was up 42 people from the previous year, so I'll take that as a win. I included that in my case study. 45 additional attendees for the Storyteller Symposium, which was a sub-event within the 4 months, which is amazing. And again, the big thing for me was the personal thank you emails, like having youth personally email me and being like, thank you so much for including my voice. Like we really loved being a part of the process and we never got the chance to do that. And because we got to do it this year, like we feel so much better about it. And like, it's just really cool to see like the collaboration come to life. So again, win in my book and stuff like that, you can include in your case study. I don't think everything, of course, if you have the numbers to back it up, amazing. But stuff like that too is great. So yeah, hopefully I didn't go over my time. But yeah, that's essentially the Youth Summit. And the only other piece of advice I can give is like, just don't be afraid to mention any challenges in your case studies. Like those are really important. And just have fun with it and you're going to be great. Everything's going to be good.
That was excellent. That was excellent, Bianca. Thank you so much. It's funny. It's like we just started doing an internal. I work in house, so I feel you on that.
Yeah.
And it's really funny that we're going to be doing a sales summit. Mind
Yeah.
you, your topic is probably a lot nicer than mine, but regardless, I'm at the very start of planning a conference like that, and
Yeah.
it's you've given me some inspiration.
Oh, yay.
I really liked how you did everybody does there's no wrong way or right way really to well, there's probably wrong ways, but there's no preformed concept of how you really tell your story. And
Exactly.
I like how you told your story in your case study by, showing, like, basically getting your narrative through the actual case studies, but
Yeah.
showing the work in context with it. And
Yeah.
I think that was a really smart idea too, especially when, it's something that's more tangible in every kind of a way around. And it just made it easy for you to tell your story that way.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. Like, your voice is your voice. And, sometimes I read case studies online and I'm like, I love this. I love this. I love the project. I love everything about it. But when I'm reading it, I'm like, I could never sound like this. Like, this just isn't me. This isn't how I speak. This isn't how I articulate myself. Like, and I've come along. It took a lot of like personal reflection on like, there's no right way to like write a case study. Like, of course there's tips and things you should be doing, but as you mentioned, but like, yeah, just at the end of the day, just have fun with it, like life is short. That's how I
I
view
think
it.
it's really important to say that, like, in your own voice.
Yeah.
It's something like you're talking about your own work, you're talking about your own passions, you're talking
Yeah.
about the work that you invested into it,
Yeah.
and it makes it less static by being
Mhm.
able to do it, like tell the story the way that you want to tell it, essentially.
Exactly.
Which
Yep.
that was great. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
One super question before we go on to somebody else. Did you use any resources within the RGD to get yourself started, or did you just kind of find the
For the case
application
studies?
and download it?
For the case studies, I did. So my research for like basically writing out the case studies and everything was I actually had a coworker, Megan DeMello. Some of you might know her. Her and I, we made it our personal goal to get certified at the same time, which was great because we were working together. So we're like, this is our like team goal. And she really helped because she pointed me to the resources section where there's like a bunch of stuff, and then also these webinars helped too because I was able to see how people talk. I know they're amazing. See people talk about their work, right? And just
Yeah.
like how people present their work too, because there's very different ways of doing that as well. But yeah, the RGD is a great wealth of knowledge. I've used them. I've been like a member of the RGD all the way from like, affiliate to student all the way to now certified for it feels like forever. And I can't speak on how great and helpful it's been. Like even for like invoice, just even the most mundane stuff like invoicing, like help with the templates and things. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, we'll talk more. Our next person, next application. Sorry, I have to go back to my script here as our RGD president would say, is Carl Chen, RGD. Carl is an accomplished, award-winning freelance designer, creative director, and educator who strongly advocates for the idea that good design can help drive business success and address real-world challenges. I would agree with that statement. During his tenure as creative director at Mosaic, Carl skillfully guided his team to deliver exceptional multidisciplinary design solutions for major global brands across various industries. With over 15 years of agency experience, Carl is now applies his expertise to assist an exclusive roster of clients in achieving their design objectives through his creative studio. Oh, Cavis. Oh, I did not see this. Kivis.
Kivas, Kivision Design, Kivas for short.
Got it. Carl's current client list includes Molson, Amazon, Kraft, AB, Labatt, Pinterest, and Microsoft. In addition, he's the professor at Seneca Polytechnic. Go Seneca! I went there. Um, sorry. Teaching interactive media, served as a guest speaker at U of W, Stratford School of Interactive Design and Business, and as a judge and a portfolio reviewer for the Association of Registered Graphic Designers of Ontario. Carl is also a certified RGD in the province of Ontario. Of course he is, because that's that's the most important part of that whole thing. Carl,
That's right.
the floor is yours.
All right, I'm excited to share with you this project. Hopefully it works. 1 second. All right, can I see?
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, great. So I want to showcase this project, even though it is a few years old, it is a project that has been a very, very important one to me, particularly because if you look at the slide, 2020, the year of the pandemic, it was a very, very interesting time for many of us, particularly in the field of experiential design, which is the world that I kind of live in. And instead of festivals, events, activations, there was a huge pivot once the lockdown happened. And so this project was essentially the first project of many right after lockdown. And so Remington Toronto is a program that Anheuser-Busch, which is a big beer brand, started in 2020 in hopes of gaining new subscribers to their beer subscription, but also ensuring that the spirit of festivals that they often do throughout the year isn't lost when lockdown happened. This was during Cinco de Mayo, and a lot of the beer portfolio and the target market was for Hispanic, the Hispanic market, and so Remington Toronto translates to a summer bash, like a big party during the summertime, and so this was a project that was very, very near and dear to me, and many of the people that were on the team at the time. In terms of the project scope, we did quite a bit. We started off the visual identity because it was the first year that we're doing it. We then moved on to digital, both static and animated assets to promote the event. We also had some trade, which is retail signage and displays to get people to pick up the beers at the grocery stores. This was in the US. And then we also got quite a few influencers involved to kind of showcase and post pictures with our overall design, making feel to kind of get a little bit more viewers involved. And also the environmental aspect, even though we're not doing an actual festival footprint, there were still like live feeds, right? So what does the stage look like? What does the overall background look like? And so, and you'll see that in the next few slides, what the beer brands that are associated with the different kind of artists, performers, and then overall it's going to be a big virtual concert. That's a live feed. For me, my involvement was at the time creative direction, art direction, graphic design, and as well as production design, because this was a really fast-moving project. I love getting my hands dirty and worked with quite a few of my designers to get this to the finish line. So if you look at Anheuser-Busch as a whole, they have quite a few beer brands that's under their portfolio. But for this particular festival, these were the 6 brands that were a little bit more related to their demographic. And so we have Bud Light Seltzer, which is fairly new at the time. We have Cutwater, Estrella, Michelob Ultra, Pure Gold, Presidente, and then Stella Artois. We started off by just kind of understanding what the overall feel is and the demographic, and also understanding the personality of Cinco de Mayo. And if you just essentially Google or go on Pinterest, everything is very, very colorful. It's very graphic. And so we kind of really took that approach, and you'll see how in the next few slides, how we actually incorporated this personality into the overall design. We started off with developing the overall logo itself, using a few different shades of color. Some of them were pulled from the primary color palette of Anheuser-Busch at the time, but also introduced a few other palettes to kind of colors to kind of introduce the more kind of vibrant, sunny, but also having that dark navy to kind of offset that warm color palette. You see that this is a custom typography design with a lot of movement within the type itself. And our goal was to also being able to animate this logo with the letters pulsating in and out. So this is essentially the static kind of version of what that logo looks like. So we created different reverse versions of the logos that go on different colors, as well as the social badges for the icons. We also have versions where we have the Anheuser-Busch corporate lockup and one without. Now going into the fun part of this project is how do we bring the Cinco de Mayo feel into this overall design? How do we combine beer brands with that personality and making sure that everything is still cohesive? So our strategy was to really kind of study the packaging and the brand look and feel of each of those 6 SKUs, and then kind of incorporating and pulling different elements of that. So if you look at Bud Light have that kind of rounded corner rectangle we call the racetrack, and we took that and really kind of blow it out, and also taking different flavor cues of different Bud Light seltzer flavors, and then creating iconography out of those. And you notice that we have a primary and secondary color palette. So primary color palettes, we have 5 different shades. You see 4 here. We also have the navy blue that you saw in the previous Revitron Toronto slide with the logo. So those 5 shades, we use not all 5, but 3 or 4, depending on the brand, as the primary color palette. We then pull some of the colors from the packaging as well as the overall feel of the brand, and then make those a secondary. And by combining those 2 color hues, we're able to create a palette that's customizable but relevant to this particular brand. So this is Bud Light Seltzer. This is Stella Artois. So with Stella, obviously we have that gold and we have the red. So we're able to pull a little bit of that color into it, but also kind of making sure that there's enough balance. So having a little bit of that navy blue in there, just to kind of offset that. And remember, Stella Artois have that star as their kind of main iconography. So we really have that the ray effect of the stars really heavily incorporated into this. Next is Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. So Michelob Ultra have that ribbon, which is a big part of their design aesthetic, and also the use of yellow. So we brought a lot of that into the overall look and feel, and recreating that diagonal motion feel throughout the overall patterns. Cutwater is a tequila-based drink, and so we have a lot of the agave tequila look and feel, and then a lot of the colors pulled from the product packaging itself. Next, we have Presidente, a lot of greens, a lot of leafy textures. So really kind of incorporating that, leading into that a little bit more. And then finally, Estrella with their stars and moons, and really kind of having fun with those patterns. And also the use of green. So their packaging, they actually don't have green, but in a lot of their marketing, they do. So we kind of just want to make sure that there is a little bit of that green that's balancing everything else that's happening in here. Now, with all these patterns and shapes, what's going to happen next? How are we going to combine it in a way that is not just a cluster of everything? They need to still feel cohesive. So what we've done was we started to pull different elements of each brand and really kind of having fun with juxtaposing, putting them on, overlaying each other, and playing around with different sizing to making sure that this feels cohesive, but also feels ownable, not just as a design, a brand, festival look and feel, but also really when you look at it, it screams Cinco de Mayo. So I think we have achieved something nice here. And then what we've done is just to kind of flesh out the overall brand look and feel. So you see all the colors and patterns here, but also at the bottom right, you notice that we have some photography treatments of different artists. So with each one of these 6 brands, there's a celebrity artist that's tied within each of those. And so it's really hard for us to get alignment when it comes to photography treatments with multiple artists and their PR team. So our the rule that we got was that we cannot adjust the photography. We can't like make it dual tone or make it black and white or whatever. All we can do is do something outside of it. So what we've done is to create a close crop, but then really having them sit on a shape that's outlined, but really have a more jagged edge. And that way they are almost like incorporated into the overall illustration style without it being feeling too different. And so the next step, I'm getting close to my time, I'll go a little bit faster. The next step is to really kind of making sure that all those elements are working well together. While we're developing the look and feel of the VBI, we were also developing these key visuals for each of the brands to making sure that all the elements that we're adding, we're creating works in context. So these were developed in tandem. We have a ton of additional assets that were done. So particularly when it comes to digital marketing, right? So we have RGD, we have, you know, like once you like Drizzly and like Instacart creative, we have like 48-hour creative, we have, you know, day of creative, we also have week in advance creative. So these are all very, very specific based on the timing. So by this point, all these were handed off to a team of designers once we developed the look and feel, just because of sheer volume of everything. You can see that once we start animating everything starting to come to life, how the logos, letters are pulsating, but also how all the elements are starting to animate, spinning, moving left and right, masking, all that kind of fun stuff. We then did a bunch of retail display signage. So these are just on the quick renders of when you're in a grocery store with this big stacks of beer, how do those signage work in tandem with those packaging? And also, these are very interesting because these are in our industry called SMTs, sign making templates. And so different retailers will put their pricing in all those empty gaps that you see on these creative. So they might have their own fonts. So that's why we just left them blank so that different retailers can apply to these creatives. So tons of assets, essentially just working off of our overall look and feel VBI. And also influencer packaging. So these had a little bit more fun because we're able to do a little bit of packaging design, a little bit of you know, bag decal design, and then some posters. So these are a little bit more fun, moving away from the digital stuff that we were doing earlier. And then as well, we did a render of the overall stage where the hosts were gathering. And so these are all kind of like COVID friendly for the most part. And then at the end, the results were pretty good for a first time doing something like this. Across all the channels that Anheuser-Busch was promoting this, there were over 400 hours, 400,000 hours of content that were viewed, and also 14 million total views of this virtual festival. And we also won the Best XM campaign at the RGD Awards. And yeah, so that was Ramadan Toronto.
Thank you so much, Carl. That was amazing. Like I work with so in-house, even my in-house stuff is a bunch of different brands that all have kind of various, like very different from each other. And how you broke it down to like deconstruct it to an element of like very basic and then being able to apply them all together is brilliant. Like I love that. And it's fun. And it was on point. Like it was that's so fun. Like I love when you get to have, it's almost like you had fun playing with it in a way, right?
Absolutely. It was really interesting to come up with the system initially. We had to just get the system approved by the higher ups before we dive deep into it, because if the system doesn't work, none of these elements will work. And we're luckily kind of, you know, got away with a little bit of that because Cinco de Mayo, the energy, the colors are inherently a little bit chaotic. So it was we lucked out in that it kind of worked well together in that case.
You didn't luck out. It was sheer genius. This is why I just wanted to say that this is why I love the RGD so much, is being able to like find a community and be able to see people's work and really be able to kind of nerd out design with it, and like just how, because it's like something about design is like it depends on the creative problem that you've been brought, right, and how you chose to, you know, it's like everybody's got different creative issues, and it's just like learning on how somebody else has kind of you know, address those issues and come up with like great solutions. My only question for you is, was this something like when you were doing your case study for your RGD submission, was a lot of that material, like, was it stuff that you already had kind of in the bag? Did you have to create something that new? Did you kind of just, or did you just kind of take what you had and kind of modify it for this kind of result?
Interesting question. So it's funny because when I presented this particular case study at the RGD, I didn't flesh out as much as I did for this particular meeting. And so it was fun to kind of dive back into it and really kind of figure out the narrative. And I think the important thing about presenting a project case study is that it has been in the back of your mind already. You live through the project. How do you communicate the story to somebody that has never seen it before? And so in this particular project, the most important nugget was the system. And so I definitely spent a little bit more time trying to figure out how to present the system in the best way. So showing all those logos, showing you know, the different packaging of all those different brands, and then pulling out the elements and showcasing all those in the overall kind of slide. So I think that was probably the most important thing.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you. We're gonna get on to our last speaker because of just making sure that we can get everybody in and make sure everybody's on time. I did have one question that I answered on our Q&A panel, but happy to address that as well too, because I think it was a great question. Our last presenter today is her name is TJ. TJ Capure. I'm gonna go. There's a nice place in somewhere hot that is going to go for every time I missay somebody's name. TJ is an accomplished designer and creative director with over 15 years of experience with shaping brands and telling client stories through design. A strategic thinker and creative problem solver, TJ distills communication challenges to their essence and translates strategic insights to ownable and compelling visual language. With strong roots established in branding and digital design, TJ is currently pursuing a Master of Design and Strategic Foresight and Innovation at OCAD University. That sounds fantastic. While working full time. I'm impressed already, and I haven't even seen your work. So
I'm currently taking a break from the thesis project, but I'm going back in September. So yeah, I finished all my courses and I'm going to go back.
You got it. Yours.
So I'm going to talk about a little bit about like the process that I went through in terms of like how do I, get my case studies together. And for me, it was kind of taking a bit too long to put all my case studies together. And so what I ended up doing was getting very organized with my tabs and going through different parts of this project in 3 different tabs rather than putting it all together in one document. I'm going to talk about the KCS branding, and this was done at my previous job, Art and Science. KCS is short for Kingsway College School. They've been around for about 35 years when we rebranded them in late 2021. And for them, this was like a good time to rebrand because they were expanding the school. They were just starting to kind of add grade 9, another campus, and grade 9 to 12 was being added. That's the senior school part of it. And they contacted Art and Science, and how do we create a brand that's kind of reflective of who they are. And the problem they were in was this is kind of what it looked like. The brand was kind of all over the place. The font that they were using was not really ownable. And then so that's kind of the before, and then this is the after. And then a lot of the copy and the visuals that you're seeing here were really part of our presentation to the client. Like, how do you get the client onto this journey, and how do we help them understand where the problems are and what we're doing together, and how can we make this a collaborative process? And what we found while talking to them is, yes, there is sort of this lack of consistency. If you hide the KCS logo, you can't really tell that this is all part of the same brand. But what they had was, they had like a really strong brand in the sense they knew who they were. It was a really good school, but the problem that they had was the branding system wasn't really working, wasn't reflective of who they were as a brand. So our job was really to distill down who they were and like bring it forward. And so they had this like really strong vision, and a lot of the foundation pieces were there. And what we tried to do with them is kind of do a few exercises to really get alignment on where they wanted to go. What was their appetite for change? What was their basically the appetite for change, and also like how bold did they want to go? Because a lot of clients will come and say that we want to do something bold and energetic, and then you present something energetic to them and they're not happy with it. So how do we kind of bring them along in this journey? And so some of these slides are from the strategic discussions we had even before we started designing anything. And it was kind of just talking about, okay, you're in this world of private schools, and there's a lot of traditional type logos. There's a lot of heraldry and crests and things like that are a part of it, and how much of it that you want to keep. What does that mean to you? Just having a visual and talking through things and moving some of these logos around, it was really easy for them to kind of see where they were, which is kind of here, but they kind of wanted to be here, right? They wanted to be more modern. They wanted to signal change. They wanted simplicity. And they wanted to fit in that sort of modern world. But how do we do that while maintaining some of the equity that has already been established for this brand? So we really started looking at all the things that they already had. And so before we started the design work, what really helped, the alignment that we got from the early stages in the strategic phase really helped us focus our design exploration in a single sort of space. We kind of knew that they wanted to be here, so there was no point showing them work that was not here. We wanted to show them 3 examples that made sense in that world. So we're kind of giving them options that are real options for them to choose from. And they're not going to dismiss a concept just because it's like, well, we want it to be modern and simple, but why are you showing us something that's not? So after this, we kind of started with really early sort of territory exploration. And it's like, how colorful do you want to be? What does this mean to you? What kind of patterns do you think work for this? So it was a very collaborative process. And then very quickly, we had alignment from the territories, and we ended up kind of doing iterations on one concept rather than showing them 3 completely separate concepts. So these are kind of the beginning of the exploration. All of these things were already in place. Like, they had these amazing school rules that people really cared about: respect manners and try your best. And we were starting to see, can we create some iconography that makes sense on the logo, as well as telling a bigger story of their approach and philosophy. So they had these 3 rules. They had these like kind of 3 doors, these icons. Again, like, we did many iterations of what these icons should be, but then these 4 icons then got used in the crest itself. And then when we were showing this concept to them, it was really helpful to kind of educate them, but also, you know, how do you make this the graphic design process a little bit more accessible to the client? So we started talking about these pictograms and icons as almost like letters, and you can combine them to make words, and you can combine those to make, you know, sentences. You know, you have this one little bar, but then once you make it 2 bars, it changes the meaning. It becomes an equality sign. You have something like a quarter circle, but if you start kind of combining that, that could look like a stage with, you know, with curtains that are being drawn. It kind of has that sparkle as well. So there's a lot of stories that you can tell with really, really simple graphics. And they really loved this idea, and they embraced it, and we kind of built out a whole system based off of that. And some of our early sort of territory exploration kind of pointed us into this vibrant sort of color palette. And again, a lot of these kind of were refined, but they were kind of more fine-tuning each aspect rather than creating 3 completely different concepts when we knew that this was kind of the answer for them, because we've done so much of the strategic work beforehand. So like really simple typeface, really powerful sort of vibrant colors, but then, you know, using those 2 colors from their previous logo, but brightening them up. And then that was kind of the symbol, which kind of represented the academics part, the arts and performance, the athletics and citizenship. So again, here it was like this idea of going up, the idea of curtains. Athletics, sometimes, you know, it's that podium stand with 3 different heights, and we wanted to kind of eliminate that. We were like, it doesn't matter if you come first, second, or third. It's about kind of getting your physical exercise and all the other things that you're learning through athletics. And then the citizenship was about like all these things that kind of coming together. And then I'll show you how we talk about, you know, how we help them kind of get started, how they communicate this brand to their students, the parents, as well as prospective students, because when we did this, they weren't quite ready to redesign their website yet. Like, it would have taken a couple of months, but it was important for them to really get funding and get people enrolled in the new school. So how do we kind of talk about the brand? I'm going to get to that in a second. But once this project was done and we did the branding, completed the branding, they came back to us and said, you know, we want to bring the new brand into the physical location. How do we kind of paint the old school? Because the new school kind of had its own sort of graphics, and that was already kind of designed, and they were kind of bringing in some of these elements with another firm. But how do you kind of repaint some of the areas of the old school? And so we did multiple visits to the location and realized that they had a lot of like spaces that kind of could get redesigned as you enter the school. There's areas that can be painted. Can we tell a bigger story? Can we bring in all of these elements into creating murals and things like that? We work with a writer to kind of come up with this tagline: expand possibilities, expand activity, expand all of these different things, that it kind of tied in with their school expansion as well. And also the logo, right? The logo is kind of this kind of this crest, but then you're expanding. There's an explosion of shapes and things and possibilities that are within it that can come out. So one of the things that we noticed when we went to the actual location was that their stairwells, you couldn't tell which part of the school you were in from the stairwell, because the colors in the stairwell, every floor was a different color, and it's very confusing. And so we thought, like, why don't we use this as an opportunity for wayfinding? What if, you know, think about if I was meeting a friend of mine, I can just say, hey, meet me at the yellow staircase or meet me at the blue staircase, rather than saying, the north staircase or the south staircase. And it's confusing. Like, how can we make this really easy and useful? So it's not just a visual element, but it actually has a purpose. So yeah, basically every single staircase was then, stairwell was then designed with its own color. We created all of these patterns or the graphics, and worked with a painter and sort of stencil maker to produce this. And then it also kind of was an opportunity to do some nice numbers and things on the doors or kind of on the glass, because some of the stairwells had glass, some of them just had a wall and a door. So how do you design for different environments but still make it feel cohesive? In terms of how this brand was presented, this was basically a brand launch microsite. And the shapes and the sort of excitement of the brand itself was kind of carried through in this microsite, because this was this loud sort of splash of their new brand, and kind of just how do we animate these. All of these were created kind of in HTML5 instead of video files. I won't play this, but there was another sort of explainer video that was created using the elements. And what's cool about this project was, like, once we finished the branding project, this brand was in many different hands, producing many different things. Like, we basically gave the brand book to a writer and an animator, and then they came up with this, because there's a very short timeline, but because the brand system was so tight and the colors and things were so fun, everything could, people could play off of that. And I think part of kind of building a brand is making sure you're giving this as a tool for other people to express from. So yeah, this was, again, all just talking about the brand itself. We gave some sort of places where people could explore different aspects of the brand and what all of these different things mean. This would, again, the audience for this would be existing students, parents and prospective students and their parents, and just bringing in some animations and things to kind of talk about the logo and then the different rules. So this one kind of has a sticky animation. Manners became a smile, and trying your best was kind of this thing that accelerates and goes upwards. And then again, the principal kind of giving a message, but making it sort of a little bit more playful and using like really bright colors to really bring out the personality of the brand. These were some signage mock-ups that we did, and there was a lot of swag that was also created. We got some quotes from students to talk about what they felt about the brand. And like this little ticker that you see was actually used on the stairwell, like not on the stairwell, but like the steps kind of when you leave the school. There was like 3 or 4 steps, and it's almost we position them as like these are the things that you're kind of leaving with. So it's just like a last reminder of their school rules while students are leaving the school. So it's like really incorporating the values and things that they really cared about in the environment. And yeah, this was some of the signage that was done, another swag items, and also a brand guideline. This was another like fun exploration tool. If you click on it, it kind of talks about expand learning, expand creativity, expand activity, expand community, and so on. And then I think there is some, this is art and science website. It again talks about certain things, but like these shapes then could be used in so many different ways. It could hold imagery. It could be a graphic shape on its own. It could be made into patterns. And, like even, on book covers, you could start kind of taking an image, close cropping it, making it kind of emerge out of or explode out of the graphic also was a part of how this brand could be expressed. So we wanted to show some of those elements. So and you've seen some of these already, and that is it for this case study.
I love how all of your case studies very much complemented each other. I think that was fantastic. That was so good. If you can take something so simple and yet make it so complex and really allow it to work for the design and the solution that you needed to. It almost created it. Someone just commented, just like someone, Rebecca. It almost it creates its own language. Like you actually even create like almost like a universal language, so to speak, to be able to communicate the morals and the essence of the work. So,
and to us, like, it was really important, like this, if you hide, like, you don't have to see the logo in order to recognize that brand. And that to me, like, that's always like this sort of a test of how well you've designed a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there's one other question for you, but we only have about 4 minutes left. So I'm gonna have everybody come up because Abdul, if you can bring everybody back on screen. There was 2 questions that kind of are the same question that I think is really important, especially now that we're tight on time, and I think it's appropriate. I'll answer both of them. Do the panelists have any tips on making the most of the shorter 4-minute case studies, so the smaller case studies? And the second question about that is, do you have any recommendations for how to meaningfully present 6 case studies in 30 minutes? So like, how did you balance your time when you presented your thing, presented it? And, talk about those other case studies that you didn't go in depth on. I don't know if anybody has a volunteer to go first, or if anybody has a solid answer to that. Carl, go ahead.
I definitely struggled with the 30 minutes, really. I felt like I got over it for a little bit. My tip will be that gauge your entire spectrum of the projects. The ones that you're deciding to do that are 4 minutes should naturally be somewhat smaller projects. The one that you really want to go in depth is the one that's like really big systems that have a lot of components. You really do want to go in depth in that area. So that kind of helps a little bit. Another thing is we all want to talk about process, but there are certain times where, because you only have 4 minutes, sometimes it's good just to show the process on screen, but don't necessarily talk to it, and just let your audience, because your audience are seasoned designers, they can see through things very, very quickly. So as long as you can see everything on screen within a few seconds, you can kind of understand the process, and you really verbally within those 4 minutes talk more about your execution and then like quick results. I think that will help to save quite a bit of time. That's my 2 cents.
Bianca, did you want to add to that?
Oh no, that's literally what I was gonna say. Like 4 minutes is nothing. So yeah, it's like also practicing too. Like just take time to practice and go through it all and say it out loud. Because I find sometimes like I when I'm reading what I've written, I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that in like 4 minutes, and then I actually say it, and I'm like, oh, that was 10. So like definitely need to cut it or make it shorter or figure something out. So saying it out loud definitely helps. But I 100% agree with Carl. Yeah, exactly what I was gonna say. Keep it for the shorter stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, TJ?
Yeah, I would say I would echo so like, have like the one that you're going to go in depth in, like make sure you're talking about the system and the strategic sort of reasons. The other ones you can kind of, you can kind of do it in a quick way, like this is kind of the scenario, this is what we did, and this is kind of the result, and then you don't have to like explain all the slides, kind of just go quickly through them. But the ones that have a system makes more sense to go and elaborate on.
Awesome. I can add to this as well too, is that the process is looking for you to answer certain things. So it's asking you to talk about your role, it's asking you to talk about the process solution. But the written part of the application, which we really didn't talk about today, is we evaluate based on the written and the portfolio review together. So if you forget to say something during your portfolio review because you're flustered and you forget, which happens to the best of us, if you've written it down and you've included as part of your written, then they're reviewed together, which I think is really important, because not everybody not everybody tests well. Not everybody is a creative director that's in front of a client that gets to do portfolio review. We're not judging you on the quality of your your presentation. It's about you being understanding your work and that the work that you're talking to. Really quick, super quick, what would you say to anybody who's looking to go through the process that's kind of on the fence?
It's easy, and I wish I'd done it sooner.
Agreed.
I've benefited from like the RGD for the last 15 years, but I've only been like a certified sort of member for the last year. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
the community is super important. I can tell you that my Seneca job was through just like conversations within the RGD Slack channel. So it's very, very useful and very important to kind of be a part of the community. So
Yeah.
do it.
It's easy, and like you can do it. You can take as long as you need to take. I think there might be some cutoffs with that. Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but like you can also get it done pretty quickly. Like I think I churned it out within like less than a month, right? And it doesn't need to take long, or it can take longer if you need it to be. So they're very helpful. The RGD is very helpful in making sure that like the process is as like clear and simple and follow, and they're always there for questions too. So if you're thinking about doing it, why not? Like I said this in the beginning, life is short. Like life is short. Get your certification,
I love you all. I'm just going to take you home with me. Thank you so much. As you're saying, check out the other, if you're looking for more of the freshly certified, we're going to be back again, probably in September. We're just booking our panelists now. There is lots of other videos to watch. There is a certification sprint, so you can actually get your written part of it done in a weekend with a group of people, which is
Amazing.
fantastic. Those are brand new. So certification committee has been working really hard. And there's also the written rationales. There's examples of those on the website as well that you can download and you can review as well too. So thank you, Carl, TJ, Bianca. You're the best. And we'll see you all in September.
Amazing.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.